Hi there, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk about the fourth chakra, the heart chakra, or the Anahata chakra in Sanskrit. This forms the center of the rainbow bridge. It's where the lower survival and very earthly chakras meet in the center with the upper three more spiritual, ethereal chakras. So this forms the center of our life and who we are and how we show up in the world. It is associated with the color green, which I find very appropriate because green to me makes me think of life, nature, and plants flourishing and growing. And for us to flourish and grow and be healthy and to have that green sheen like a plant would, we have to have a balanced heart chakra and love for ourselves and for others. This chakra is also associated with the element air, which makes sense. Our lungs are in this region, so the heart chakra kind of goes from like the shoulders and the top of the neck down to the bottom of the diaphragm. It contains our arms, so we reach out and hug and embrace and pull in or push away, as well as our rib cage and our lungs, which is where we take in air and expel. So this chakra is the last of the elemental association. So there's the earth for the root chakra, there's water for the sacral, fire for the solar plexus, and now air for the heart chakra. The heart chakra is one of the most complex, in my opinion. It is something that we all have difference of opinions on, and it's something that we all strive for. Our underlying desire in this life is for love. In fact, many psychologists have surmised that everything that we do is driven by this need for love. So we wear the clothes that we wear, we do the jobs that we do, every action we take basically has an underlying need for love driven behind it. So the abuses to this chakra would be any sort of abuse. Mental, physical, sexual would affect a person's ability to feel worthy, whole, and complete. So when we think about the abuses of the bottom three chakras, any of those will throw off the balance of the heart chakra. A balanced heart chakra would be someone who has clear and defined boundaries. They allow people in, they love, they demonstrate compassion, they aren't scared to do things for others outside of themselves. They can put themselves in other people's shoes and show an understanding for other people's circumstances. But at the same time, they still have a healthy amount of boundaries where they can say no to others. They don't have to sacrifice their own needs, their own desires in order to gain love. They feel worthy and whole and complete on their own. Love from other people is just a bonus. They don't need approval from other people to feel worthy, whole, and complete. I'm going to read from the book, Eastern Body, Western Mind, for the excess and deficiency as outlined by Anna Judith. So deficiency in this chakra would be antisocial, withdrawn, cold, critical, judgmental, intolerant of self or others, lonely, depressed, fear of intimacy, lack of empathy, or narcissism. Excess could be codependency, poor boundaries, demanding, clingy, jealous, and overly sacrificing. Now, I resonate with both excess and deficiency in different times in my life and in different circumstances. So just know that that's something that might go from one end to the other with different people. In my own relationship with my husband, especially in the early days, because I had such a low self-worth and I really felt like I didn't deserve him on some level, I like did everything I possibly could in order to make him happy in my mind, because I was scared he would leave me. So there was a lot of jealous undertones, a lot of like smothering, poor boundaries, you know, not being able to say no, not looking at my needs first, always looking at the needs of him over other people. But at the same time, I have been very narcissistic to other people and put my own needs above theirs, and had a lack of empathy or a lack of ability to care about their feelings in certain situations. So I've been on both sides of that spectrum, and you might resonate with that as well. Healing practices for this chakra have to do a lot with breath work, you know, bringing in breath, letting it out. Because if you notice, when you're upset, when you're feeling depressed or grief or feeling loss, something that the demon of this chakra is grief, and you're going through an emotional time, you might feel a very tight, constricting feeling in your chest. You'll notice a lot of people who suffer from panic attacks or depression have a hard time breathing through the pain, and it's like they start breathing really fast and rapidly, and it actually like makes it worse, or they have to let's just say, just breathe, which is harder than it sounds when you're in the midst of a full-blown panic attack. And also working with the arms, so opening the front gate of the heart. Might notice that you have a lot of tension in your upper back. That can be an indication that there's blocks in this chakra as well. And opening the back gate of the heart, so lots of stretches that open the back, so reaching out and pulling in, like a balance between those two. Now I want to talk about, I just briefly listed the damages to this chakra, but it's worth really looking at our childhood with any of these chakras, and noticing how love was treated in our household. For me, there was a lot of, I've had a lot of self-worth issues, because when I was in the stage of like the solar plexus chakra, the forming the I identity, that is when my mom gave me and my two sisters over to my dad so that we had full-time care with him rather than her. And he was busy on and off, so depending on whether he had a girlfriend or not to help him take care of us, we mostly lived with our grandma. So that caused us to feel a lot of self-worth issues, because we were too young to understand the situation. So in our minds, we weren't worthy. We weren't worthy of love. Our parents didn't care about us enough to take care of us. We just kind of got sloughed off onto our grandmother. And that stuck with us well into adulthood and determined a lot of the ways we act. Like I said, when I met my husband, I would pour myself into him, like that codependent kind of relationship, because I was so terrified that I wasn't worthy enough to keep him. And that's not a good dynamic either. So think back. How was love treated in your house? Did you have to perform? Was love conditional? Like, did your parents revoke their love and be cold and unyielding to you if you messed up and if you didn't follow the rules? How did your parents treat each other? Was there even a dynamic there at all? You know, in my situation, it was like we had to kind of look at, our parents hated each other. So there was that dynamic. And then like my grandma was divorced as well. So she kind of had like this kind of hatred towards men. So all of this stuff, like, it's like your little sponges as children, absorbing all of this information. You don't really know what to make out of it. So you end up making like these false conclusions about love. Like, I have to be an A student to be loved, or I have to perform, go to college, and get a specific job to be loved. If I don't give myself over to the family and deny my own desires and my own needs, I won't be shown love. Like, if you're the oldest sister, in my case, if you don't help out with your sisters and not go hang out with your friends, then you're not worthy of love. Or if you don't shut your mouth and stop talking against what I believe in, then you're not worthy of love. These types of things. So I really want you to focus on what that dynamic was in your household. You know, sit down and just journal out, like just write it out without really thinking, what was the dynamic? Did your parents talk through their problems? Did they yell through their problems? Was your mom really, really nice one day and then explosively raging out the next? Were problems swept under the rug? Were you allowed to talk about your problems? Were you allowed to talk about your feelings? Was one sister favored over another sister? And was that visible in the household? Did your parents make it clear that certain behaviors were more worthy than others? Were you still shown love and affection and compassion when you did something wrong? Or were you completely shut down and told to go to your room and treated differently? These are all things to consider. And this will show up. What I find most interesting about this chakra is when there's parts of ourselves that we deny or we reject as children in order to receive the love that we're looking for, because we'll find out really quickly, not only from our parents and our siblings, but from our classmates and society, what behaviors are acceptable and what is not. So if there's parts of ourselves that we reject in order to feel loved, then what happens when you get older, as you go out, you'll start to notice that the rejected parts of yourself. So for instance, say it's like being very outspoken. This happened to me specifically. If you're very outspoken and you learn very early on that having an opinion and being loud and proud about it means that you're annoying and that no one's gonna like you, then you start to see people that are like that and they come up and they almost like trigger a reaction within you. So then you're like, ugh, I don't like that person. And it's almost like you're rejecting that person for the same thing that you're rejecting in yourself. So this is called mirroring, and it's something that can be very helpful in bringing back and retrieving those parts of ourselves that we've rejected in order to receive love, and start to love them and accept them as part of who we are. Because self-love is also a part of this chakra. So the more you see in other people things that trigger you, things that make you feel uncomfortable, maybe it's a woman that's very career driven and you're a stay-at-home mom, and it triggers you that they go after their passions, and there's a part of you that feels that you would like to as well. Or maybe the opposite. Maybe you're a career-driven woman and stay-at-home moms trigger you, and they make you feel like you're performing at this pace and you're doing all these things when you could be doing this, and you almost have like this hatred towards each other. Those are just examples. And then noticing who's triggering you and why, and starting to reclaim those parts of yourselves and loving them. Because once you can start to love yourself for who you truly are, and this is something I'm still working on today, like I said, being outspoken, being a little bit extra, a little bit crazy, and not be scared to, say my opinion. I've censored so many of my opinions on social media, trying to be like, love, light, yoga, that the truth is I'm not like that. I do have a lot of compassion and understanding for people the more work that I've done in the yoga sphere. but I still have an opinion. I'm still very upfront. I'm still kind of in your face. I'm an aggressive person. I have an opinion. I'm not scared to speak my mind. So I have to kind of integrate that and start loving myself for who I am and not caring that that might trigger other people or that might push people away, because that is who I am. And the more I accept that about myself, the more authentic I can show up and the more real I can be with other people. So that for me is something. So think about yourself. Like, what is something that you did as a child or you did as a teenager and you feel like you have to like stuff it down and suppress it and you don't feel comfortable doing it or being yourself around certain people, and analyze that. Like, did you suppress that aspect of yourself to gain acceptance because it was more comfortable in a social situation? It was more comfortable to be around other people when you put up that wall, when you put up that guard, and when you weren't being true to yourself, because it was easier to just avoid the conflict than it was to be honest and authentic about who you are and how you show up in the world. And when you come from a place of wholeness and you can love those aspects of yourself that you previously were ashamed of, then there's going to be a lot less depression, a lot less breakdowns. You can look at other people and have compassion for them when they're not doing so well, when they're being down on themselves. And when you show up to a relationship like that and you work on those parts of yourself, then you can stop projecting those insecurities and those parts of yourself that you're ashamed of onto your partner. It's very interesting. I've been with my husband for 13 years now. We've been together since I was 16. And when we were first together, it's like when you fall in love with someone, all of your guards go down and you let that person truly in. All of the defenses are down. And that's why you feel so vulnerable. And it can be a very triggering place to be, because over the years you've put up all these defenses and put on these masks and been very fake about who you are in order to survive. So the more you become comfortable with this person, you let your guards down, and inevitably they're gonna project parts of themselves that they've denied and pain and suffering that they've went through in their childhood onto you, and vice versa. So it can be very volatile at first, and lots of blaming and lots of jealousy and that kind of stuff. So if you can get through it by having compassion and looking at it through these lenses of the chakras and really analyzing how you're showing up, what you've said, what you've done, and if you're being true, it'll kind of have like this snowball effect, and your relationship might go from like this to like, and like we just like bicker now, even barely, and usually it ends up with us laughing anyway. So I find that very interesting. So stay tuned, do the journaling exercise, and ask yourself like 50 questions if you have to. Like really go deep. Like, how did my mom talk to me? How did she treat me when I was bad? How did she treat me when I was good? How did my dad talk to me? How did they talk to each other? Blah, blah, blah. And it will give you a really good sense of like why you're swinging towards like being codependent or narcissism, or like why you have empathy for others, or why you're self-sacrificing, why you do everything for everyone else but not yourself, or why you're hesitant to do things for other people because you don't want to feel rejected, you don't want to feel hurt. It's easier to just do everything for yourself. Like, it could go either way. So be honest with yourself. And I will be posting a 30-minute flow on this chakra on Wednesday, so stay tuned. Subscribe down below if you haven't already to be updated with that content. And I just wanted to add that I have a Magic in Movement membership. So for this whole chakra series, each chakra, I'm also putting 2 1-hour flows on that membership. It's only $11.11 a month. So if you're liking this yoga series and you're really interested in working with the chakras, then be sure to check that out. I will link it down below. And also, if you wanted to work with me one-on-one personally, I am currently building an offering for one-on-one coaching. So if you wanted to message me and kind of let me know what you're looking for, I would really love that, because I want to create the offering for people that actually want it, and I want to know, like, what do you want? How can I help you? Is it food? Is it nutrition? Is it mindset? And I will take that into consideration when building it. I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye!